Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of All Angles. I'm Dion Jacksmiller. So, as you know, we've been talking a lot about constitutional reform, but a lot of people are still saying to me, they're not sure they understand all the issues. They don't feel as if they're part of the conversation. And as a result, we're going to spend this entire program breaking down some of the major issues for you. I'm Dion Jacksmiller. Glad to have you with us. Well, let's start out with King Charles III. King of the United Kingdom and the king and head of state for 14 other Commonwealth realms, including Jamaica.
You may live in the United Kingdom or in the realms and territories across the world.
All right, hold on. Realms and territories across the world. He's talking about us folks. We're a realm.
And whatever may be your background or beliefs, I shall endeavour to serve you with loyalty, respect, and love.
Now, King Charles became the UK's monarch at the age of 73 when his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, died, and that was on the 8th of September, 2022.
Mourners have assembled outside the palace to pay their respects to the monarch following the passing of Jamaica's head of state, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Now, a statement from Buckingham Palace earlier today read that the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral, which is the royals' Scottish estate, Thursday. Now, that statement was placed on the palace gate, where hundreds of people have been placing flowers outside the palace and also at Windsor Castle.
King Charles is Jamaica's head of state, like his mother before him, because our constitution says so. The king's representative in Jamaica is the Governor General. So listen now to the former Clerk of the Houses of Parliament, Valerie Curtis, reading a proclamation made by Governor General Sir Patrick Allen.
Given under my hand and the broad seal of Jamaica at King's House, this 8th day of February, in the year of our Lord 2024, and the second year of the reign of His Majesty, King Charles III. God save the King.
So you hear the language there. So we're now talking about whether we should change our constitution to remove King Charles as our head of state. And if we do that, who would replace him? In June 2020, we had discussed that issue on All Angles following a controversy over a badge that the Governor General was wearing. You remember that? Giovanni Dennis had filed this report.
This is the insignia that sparked the latest controversy on social media. It's called the Order of St. Michael and St. George, one of the highest orders of the British monarchy, personally bestowed by the Queen. The royal website says it was established in 1818 to recognize distinguished citizens. On one side of the badge seen here, the Archangel St. Michael is supposedly trampling Satan. The problem, the Archangel is white and is standing on the neck of a black man. In the post-George Floyd era, many see this as unacceptable. George Floyd was an African-American killed on May 25 after a white policeman knelt on his neck. Bumi Thomas, a Nigerian-British specialist in visual communications, is quoted as saying the imagery on the badge was clear.
It is not a demon. It is a black man in chains with a white, blue-eyed figure standing on his neck. It is literally what happened to George Floyd and what has been happening to black people for centuries under the guise of diplomatic missions. Active, subliminal messaging that reinforces the conquest, subjugation, and dehumanization of people of color.
Now, with the Queen of England still Jamaica's head of state, this is an honor bestowed on her representative here in Jamaica, the Governor General Sir Patrick Allen. He lives right here at King's House on Hope Road in St. Andrew. In this official photo posted on the King's House website, the Governor General is wearing the controversial badge. A petition on change.org for the redesign of the badge and an apology for its use has already attracted over 7,000 of the 7,500 signatures being sought. But the badge is just one of a long list of colonial relics in Jamaica because the Queen of England is still our head of state, nearly 60 years after independence. For one, there's the throne speech delivered by the Governor General at the start of each legislative year. Ironically, in 2016, he said this:
Or a Constitution Amendment Bill to replace Her Majesty the Queen with a non-executive president as its head.
2. The highest honor for lawyers is to be designated Queen's Counsel. 3. Jamaica's specialist maternity hospital is named Victoria Jubilee Hospital. The Southeast Regional Health Authority says it was established in honor of the Queen. 4. There's the Princess Margaret Hospital in St. Thomas. 5. In Jamaica's courts, judges are addressed by the titles My Lord or Milady. 6. The oath of allegiance for foreigners wishing to become Jamaican citizens, according to the Passport and Immigration Citizenship Agency, states in part,
I, Jane Doe, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors, according to the laws of Jamaica.
After independence in 1962, Jamaica did change the name of this park from Victoria Park to St. William Grant Park, after the heroic Labour leader of the 1938 riots. Ironically, however, the statue of Queen Victoria remains in the park, with no statue of the man after whom the park is actually named.
King's House later announced that the Governor General would no longer be wearing that particular badge. But you could just substitute the date and King for Queen, and the report is just as relevant. But let's leave the debate about removing the British monarch for just a little while. I want to take you back to 1962, when our current constitution was written. Now, the constitution is what we call our supreme law. All other laws that are passed have to conform with the constitution, or the court can strike them down. In Jamaica, though, the public didn't really get a chance to participate when the 1962 constitution was being written. Caribbean constitutional scholar Simeon McIntosh said this about the drafting of the Jamaican constitution. He said it did not involve the mass of the people as such, but was essentially an elitist policy of negotiating with the colonial office. There's a timeline based on research done by scholars Trevor Monroe and Simeon McIntosh. September 19, 1961, Jamaica held a referendum and decided to withdraw from the West Indies Federation. Then, the third week in October, so just a few weeks later, 1961, both houses of parliament in Jamaica appointed committees to prepare draft constitutions. By October 31, the first meeting of the Joint Committee was held, and on January 18, 1962, in other words, in less than 3 months, we had the first draft of our 1962 Constitution. That draft was then taken to London, alterations made, and it was ratified by the Jamaican Parliament on February 27, 1962, and came into effect later that year on the 25th of July, 1962. Now you can see the compressed timeline, how fast it was that that constitution came into being. And as a result, McIntosh said this. He said the absolute priority on completing a constitutional document in short order resulted in the fundamental law being drafted by a few men in secret conclave. Trevor Monroe now, in his book, Politics of Constitutional Decolonization, said this. He said the result was that the Constitution was almost a foregone conclusion. It embodied decisions, most of which were taken within 3 hours of the Joint Committee's first meeting. So that's one of the reasons you've been hearing concerns about the current process of constitutional reform. That's why you've been hearing as well criticisms that the public hasn't been engaged enough, and people will reference the 1962 Constitution and how that came into being. One of the people who has been criticizing the process is Mikel Jackson of Jamaicans for Justice, and she spoke to us on this program in August 2023.
We have not sat together as civil society through engagement from the CRC, now I'm saying, to say, what are your issues? What can I represent on your behalf? Such a discussion has not been had.
Now, we should note that the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs has had a number of town halls and other engagements. And last week on this program, the minister listed some of those engagements.
I think that there is a lot more that needs to be done, Dion. And I have never been resistant. I have merely been pointing out the efforts made. So I understand that the 5 town halls that we have had, not enough. The over 30 meetings we have had, still not enough. The over 80 other engagements, not enough. The number of reports come, not enough.
Now, another thing to know is that because we were a colony of Britain, our constitution didn't come from a Jamaican parliament. So you're going to hear people talk about the need to Jamaicanize our constitution. What do they mean? The current constitution is what is called a schedule to an order in council. Now, an order in council is something, an instrument made by the king, acting on the advice of the Privy Council. And when we say Privy Council here, we don't mean the court. The Privy Council is a group of advisors to the king. So the Privy Council advises the king, who then gives the order for this order in council to be made and then approves it as well. Now, we're going to come back right after this break and we'll pick up with this special explainer edition of All Angles. Stay with us.